So what I thought I'd do this afternoon is give you a sort of a day in the life of Iain Dunnett at the Environment Agency, which hopefully is a bit more interesting than just a sort of the glossy presentation you probably get from the website if you went on there and just had a read about what the Environment Agency does for 10 minutes or so. Hopefully that will give you a better idea of certainly what I do at the Environment Agency anyway, and obviously some of the activity that goes on in the organisation. It's probably, if you just move on to the next slide, Jess, probably worth saying a little bit about me and who I am and what I do, just a little bit of context. So I added it up today. I have been working for 40 years now, so a career of 40 years, which is a rather worrying length of time, but most of that's been in the environmental sector, if you like. So I've worked in environment from sort of the heady days of being a countryside ranger when I was very young and still in short trousers through to where I am nowadays. I have gone in other directions as well. I've worked on funding, national funding, lottery, European funding, etc., but also on local enterprise as well. I've worked for the Local Enterprise Partnership for about 10 years. But the bulk of my work has been in the area of sustainability and environment. Probably my purple patch, as far as my favourite job, was in Suffolk, you'd be glad to know, and it was managing the Creating the Greenest County initiative for 5 years back in the mid to late noughties. Great job, really enjoyed working on the Creating the Greenest County aspiration in Suffolk. I'm Suffolk based, have been for the last 30 odd years. I'm from Woodbridge originally, this is where I grew up, so Suffolk's very much the home territory. And in the current role and in a number of roles, I'm working right across East Anglia. So I'm currently covering Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, Bedfordshire, and Cambridgeshire. That's who I am. What do I do? So the title you can see there is a Sustainable Places Manager. So I'm one of two Sustainable Places managers working for the Environment Agency in the Eastern region, covering those 5 counties. The job title does describe quite well what we do. We're all about working across those 5 counties, working on the idea of making them sustainable places, whether that's at the local level, a district or county level, and then right across the whole of the East Anglian region. So that's a very interesting role. It gets us into all sorts of interesting areas of work from the Environment Agency. The two of us in this role, we're very much externally focused. So doing this type of thing, you know, with you, talking to communities, working with partnerships, it's very much about what we do. We're not the sort of internal technical experts that you might have liaised within the Environment Agency about water, waste, air, etc., etc. We cover a very wide range of subjects on behalf of the Environment Agency. Next slide, please, Jess. So what I thought I'd do is just run through, just to give you a rough idea of what I do in my role, in my job. And then, of course, that may you may have questions on those particular areas, and it'll give you a better idea of what we do. But this is just a flavour. And what I've tried to pick here, this isn't fully comprehensive, everything we do. I've tried to pick areas here where there is a community theme to the work we do. There pretty much is. Yeah, the slides can certainly be shared afterwards. Yeah, certainly will do. So there's a community flavour to most of these points that I'm going to make here. From the point of view of sustainable development and local nature recovery, we're very active in this area. Our largest activity at the moment is around local nature recovery strategies, which you may have heard of. They've been in the pipeline for the last 18 months or so, and they're being developed in every county across the country. So 48 of them across England. And we will have 5 local nature recovery strategies in Essex, Cambridgeshire, Bedfordshire, Norfolk and Suffolk in East Anglia. These are being led by the local authorities with support from Environment Agency, Forestry Commission and Natural England. And they're very much community driven. So hopefully your experience, if you had experience of them, has been that you've been roped into the development of the local nature recovery strategies in some way, shape or form. And most importantly, that second point, in Suffolk, the public consultation period for the Norfolk and Suffolk strategies is current now. It's running now through until early June. So if you weren't aware of that, that's the opportunity to get in there and comment on that development of that strategy going forwards. In my opinion, they are an exciting, new, innovative way to approach local nature recovery. It's an opportunity for a lot of different organisations, a lot of different communities to work together in a joined up way to try and reduce and obviously cease the decline in nature. So there's a real opportunity to do that going forwards. And I think if your community, if your group, if your organisation hasn't already been consulted on that, we would certainly want to hear about that and make sure that you are getting an input to that from a community perspective. Oh, fantastic, Jess, well done. From a local authority climate perspective, we are also heavily involved in all the various climate emergency boards or climate change boards that have been established across all those counties over the last few years. Most local authorities have declared some sort of commitment to responding to the current climate challenges of the 21st century. And as you can imagine, the Environment Agency is working very closely with those climate boards on areas such as water efficiency, flooding, water quality, water scarcity, and so on. Again, those climate boards, certainly in Suffolk with the Suffolk Climate Change, Energy and Environment Board, have a very strong community perspective to it. That's why we're here today. This has come about through that particular partnership and through all the community work that you are doing across Suffolk. Oh, it's got bigger. That's good. I can see it even more clearly now. So the climate boards are very important to the work we're doing, and we're taking that forward across all 5 counties in East Anglia. There are then specific areas, and these are just 2 that I wanted to flag, but particular areas that we are working on as individual officers. Obviously, it's not us. There's a whole variety of different people providing technical input to these areas. Nutrient neutrality is a figure of speech that's come about over the last few years, where it's becoming recognised that the level of nutrients in water running off from the surrounding farmland is too high and therefore affecting quality of water. So there's been a huge effort in different parts of the country involving organisations like the Environment Agency in this area, University of East Anglia, Norfolk Wildlife Trust, and so on, to try and develop new approaches to nutrient neutrality. The innovative approach in this area has been done in Norfolk with the setting up of an organisation called Norfolk Environmental Credits, and they're looking at the development of a nutrient market with farmers and landowners in Norfolk that manages and benefits the overall nutrient situation, with the main benefit obviously being a reduction in nutrients into rivers and water courses in that part of Norfolk. And that's being recognised as pretty innovative, and it will probably feed into a wider rollout of this approach nationally. We're also working on things, excuse me, such as shared standards for water efficiency. We're, as you can imagine, the Environment Agency is very keen to encourage water efficiency to get the level of household water use down to a lower level across the piece. And that partnership is working across local planning authorities, water companies, local communities to try and develop the right water efficiency standards in new homes as they're built, but also the greater challenge in many ways is retrofitting in older homes as well, as it is with energy. But so energy and water efficiency sit very much together. Energy efficiency tends to be the one that people focus on. Understandably, there's nothing wrong with that. But equally, water efficiency can make huge energy and carbon savings, as well as obviously water savings. So nutrient neutrality, shared standards for water, just a couple of areas that we specialise in that we're working on. Next slide, please, Jess. Excuse me, just need a sip of water. The other area of work that we do particularly is around partnership planning, and currently now the devolution agenda. Probably most people will be aware of the devolution and local government review agenda in East Anglia, particularly in our part of the world where a number of fast-track authorities are being are going to be developed under the new devolution approach from the current government. So we've got an awful lot of activity going into this area here. We currently have about 50 partnerships that we support across those 5 counties. All those partnerships require some sort of input from the Environment Agency, either as a statutory duty of what we do in regulating and controlling, or it's something the Environment Agency deems it wants to do, because obviously we can support partnerships in going forward, delivering various national environmental objectives and targets. And they come in all shapes and sizes: regional flood control committees, the FENS 2100 partnership, creating the Greenest County Partnership in Suffolk. We support and work with all those committees going forward. So there is that opportunity as members of various committees across Suffolk, across Suffolk, to work with the Environment Agency through a very wide-ranging array of partnerships across Suffolk and across East Anglia. Local plans obviously occupy us to a great extent. We're working on cross-cutting themes on all the local plans across East Anglia, from district local plans up through strategic plans at the county level and so on. And as you can imagine, we're looking at important areas for us in doing this, which are water resources, water quality, flood risk, nature-based solutions, climate adaptation, and so on. So we're very much focused on those plans. And of course, those plans are probably going to be changing over the next year as the devolution and local government review agenda is rolled out. So subject to all that happening, in Suffolk, we'll be looking at a mayoral strategic authority being developed. In partnership with Norfolk, we'll be looking at different or changed unitary authorities in the county, and all those organisations, those new local authorities, will obviously be set an agenda by government, and we all know that government has a very strong growth agenda at the moment. So the Environment Agency, Natural England Forestry Commission, the other agencies, etc., will be focused very much on that process and making sure that environmental protection is a key part of those structures going forward as they develop. And of course, communities will be a central part of this development going forward. So there's various consultations going on out there at the moment. So there's the opportunity to work with the Environment Agency in finding the right position to take in relation to these new authorities going forward. It's rather dry work. It's not the most exciting work, but it's very important, and it's going to be very important in a year or so's time when we're voting for mayors and deciding what direction to take our various counties in. Last slide, please, Jess. Everybody asks me, well, do I work on water for the Environment Agency? Well, I do, but I'm not a technical specialist in water. The Environment Agency has obviously a lot of different people working on specialisms in the water area. I'm not a water specialist. I'm not a hydrologist or anything like this. I don't need to be. I cover a much wider range of activities, but we carry water with us, if you like, in having those conversations with all those organisations, partnerships, etc., that we work on. And you've just got a flavour there of the variety of different partnerships that we work with. Some of them will obviously be very relevant to Suffolk, such as the Suffolk Food Partnership, Suffolk Local Authority and Business Water Groups. You've got various catchment and community partnerships across Suffolk. If you take the Deben, for example, a lot of community catchment partnership work that's going on the Deben, which involves not just me, but many other Environment Agency officers going forwards. So there's a variety of partnerships there, and I could put another 30 or 40 names on there as well. It just gives you a flavour of what we're doing. I felt that was the best way to perhaps get across to you what my role is and what my job involves, rather than just giving you glossy pictures of what the Environment Agency does corporately on a national basis. So I think the main message for me to yourselves would be that whether it's me or whether it's my immediate colleagues, the Environment Agency is very keen to work with local communities. At least the least we can do is listen to communities and find out what they want to do. The most we can do is get fully involved with those communities where we can and develop a joint approach towards the achievement of national environmental objectives, which is essentially what the Environment Agency is about. I've probably spoken for long enough, Jess. I said I'd speak for about 20 minutes. I don't want to go on for too long because I know that can get a bit boring. And thanks for sharing that presentation, Jess. That's made life a lot easier. And if I can just open it up to questions and answers, fire away if you've got any questions you'd like to put to me.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. That was great. If you want to raise your hand or turn your mic on or put your questions in the chat or Q&A box, then we can start drilling in.
Stunned. Perhaps I've stunned everybody into silence.
Roger.
Yeah, thanks. That was interesting. We have. Sorry, I'm from Green Ixworth, based inevitably in Ixworth, and we have two particular issues. One is two major developments that are about to take place, which will increase the housing numbers in the village by around 35%. So quite substantial. And we have a number of problems there concerning the roads. We have two bypasses and they're particularly noisy, and existing properties in the village are up against them. Now, is it Environment Agency that might address the issue of noise?
Good question. We have a good question, Roger. Thanks for that. I know Ixworth well. We have a duty to obviously consider a very wide range of environmental factors when it comes to local plans and local developments like that. Noise isn't our particular baby, if you like, so to speak. That tends to sit with the local authorities. When it comes to Environment Agency, you're generally thinking about water, flooding, and waste management. Those three areas that occupy us. But obviously, we do get involved, of course, in conversations with the local authorities, the health authority, the director of health, etc. And of course, those conversations will come around to noise and other issues, air quality, and so on. So we've got limited powers when it comes to noise, but we would certainly be involved in conversations from the perspective of the local plans, and we will comment on those local plans if we feel there's a need for the agency to do so. It would primarily be on water and flooding issues there, Roger.
Okay, well then that brings me on to the second point, which is with these two estates. One of them, I think is probably going to be okay, but we're right on the aquifer from which Ixworth water is drawn for the surrounding area, and it seems to us that there is insufficient effort made to return water to the aquifer. Now, the SUDS situation is such that there will be an attenuator, which I gather means that it will gradually release the water rather than infiltrate it. Are you sufficiently involved in water to be able to comment on that?
I wouldn't be able to comment specifically on it, Roger. So what a lot of people use myself to do is to get to the right people within the agency. So you're very welcome to email me.
That was good. That was going to be my final point. Yes,
that's right.
Third and final point.
A lot of people
do we talk to?
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people use myself and Keith, my colleague Keith Moore, as a way into the agency, because it can be, I think, it'd be fair to say, a bit baffling as to who do you talk to in the agency. So you're very welcome to put that to us. And in your case, from what you're talking about there, we have planners that are working on those particular things. We'd be able to flag that with them and then be able to say whether they're involved in that particular case or whether they've made comment on it, etc. So you're very welcome to do that, Roger.
Okay, so I can contact you and you'll be able to pass on that. And then the other point arising from that is, would they be, I presume if they're dealing with planning, they're not dealing with the rivers. and catchment areas?
Well, our planners will look at any development from the point of view of, rivers, floodplains, flooding. They will look at the water quality and water scarcity issues, and so on. So they will look at they'll look at the kind of water issue very comprehensively. Not with every local planning application. Obviously, there's a limit to how many you need to look at, and they've got a filtering system that obviously filters out those that are not going to be a great concern to the Environment Agency. But most planning applications will be looked at from that perspective. And ultimately, if you've got, as you said, water quality, aquifer effects, etc., then the agency will probably be making comments on it. And of course, ultimately, the ultimate action the agency can take is to object to a planning application. So it does have the ability to do that. Of course, we can be overruled, and the local authority doesn't have to follow what we recommend. We're there to protect the environment and to recommend what should be done to protect the environment, but local planning authorities do have the last call on whether they go ahead and do it or not.
Okay, and then presumably it'll be somebody different who will be dealing with the river.
Yeah, depending on so if you take it might be that it's the catchment partnership manager that's managing the river aspects, if you like, a local area like yourself or a local community. It'd be someone like that, or we have specialists in fisheries and biodiversity and so on. So depending on the nature of your inquiry, if you come in through me, we can then ping it off in the right direction.
Okay, fine, that's great.
Okay.
Your contact will be somewhere, will it?
Yeah, we'll put it in the chat to Jess.
Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
I think first
Thank you.
was Caroline, who's got her hand up, and then we've got a question in the Q&A from Charles and a question from Sally as well. But if you go first, Caroline.
Super, thank you. I'm Parish Clerk for Palgrave. Apologies, I haven't got my camera on. We've had an issue for 2 years, and I just want your assurance that it is now going to be resolved. Basically, we've got a drain, a gully, whatever you want to call it, on Crossing Road, flowing downstream, and it smells incredibly. Today, I've actually had a telephone call, another one today, complaining about it. We've had Anglian Water out. They say it's not their responsibility. We've had highways out. They say it's not their responsibility. There are two houses very nearby that have got their own sewage, cesspit type things, which are cleaned every year. I believe that they have had letters now. Somebody has officially complained to the Environment Agency, and they've had letters which they have to respond to. Pending those responses, can I be assured that this will now be dealt with? Because it's obviously smelling water. It's obviously to do with waste, sewage, whatever you want to call it.
Well, it sounds like you've done all the right things, Caroline. You've contacted everybody that could possibly have an interest in it, as you said, water companies, Environment Agency, local authorities, etc. Without knowing the actual incident itself, obviously, I wouldn't be able to comment on what's happening or what's caused it. But I would be interested in sort of tracking how you get on with that, and obviously assisting if you felt that the right response wasn't, or if no response was coming forth from the Environment Agency. I could certainly flag that if that was the case.
Yeah, I didn't actually put in the complaint to the Environment Agency.
Okay.
So obviously somebody in the village did. I've dealt with Anglian Water on various times. I've been out several times and have been brilliant, I have to say. And Highways, who basically said it wasn't their problem. So the two residents who've got these home cesspits, I don't know, whatever you want to call them, they've each had a letter from the Environment Agency that they obviously have to respond to. So pending that response, because they don't think it's their responsibility, pending that response, will it go further down the line and eventually get resolved, is what I'm basically asking, as an official complaint has been lodged by somebody.
Well, I wouldn't like to call it, Caroline, without knowing the individual situation. But if you were willing to flag with me whatever response you get, I can always double check it to see if it has been fully investigated, fully responded to, if it's an Environment Agency regulatory action that's needed. So
yeah. Sorry, can I just interject you there, Ian? The problem is I won't know the response because I've not submitted the complaints.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, feel free to just drop me an email that just gives a general outline of the problem.
Okay.
I can then raise it internally and say, is anybody dealing with this?
Okay. Okay. Brilliant. And presumably, as Roger asked before, we'll get an email somewhere in the chat
put
or
it
somewhere.
in the chat because Ian said he was
Brilliant.
happy to share that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
That's right, Caroline.
Okay, and then can you see Sally's
so
in the chat there about Storm Babette?
Let me just have a read, Sally. Yeah, obviously, Storm Babette and the flooding, in Devon and Framlingham, other communities in that part of Suffolk was very serious, as you know, and you've obviously been dealing with it. The Section 19 investigations have been underway. As I understand it, you might know more than me whether they've actually come back in full as yet or not. But the issue is, as always, with flooding and flooding control, it will be a resource issue and land management issue. So what we're finding with all these catchment situations where flooding does occur is that the partnership that's required to manage the catchment in a way that reduces flooding going forwards is required. In some cases, that level of partnership is already there. And I think what we're looking at from a point of view of the Environment Agency and DEFRA in general is a resourcing ask going forwards around flooding across the country, where the Environment Agency will obviously prioritise whatever it can from a flooding perspective, but equally the Environment Agency cannot fully cover the costs of all flooding requirements, and therefore the answer really has to be in a joint partnership approach to flooding control in these particular areas across a range of different organisations. That won't happen tomorrow. It does take a while to achieve these things, but certainly my knowledge of this area is that all the organisations are moving in the right direction to achieve what's required, subject to the resourcing that government is giving them. And whether that's a useful answer, Sally, or not, I don't know. You're smiling, but whether that helps you move things forward or not, I don't know. Does that tell you anything more than you already know, Sally? I think you're on mute.
No, not really, to be honest.
Fair enough. What, just specifically on that, Sally, what are the particular areas you're waiting for further confirmation of?
Well, I mean, the village has tried to be as proactive as it can, and has even invested some money in a walkover by I think the organisation is called Amazi, a consultancy firm, and they've been liaising about the NFM scheme. But it's I think the county council actually apply for the grant, but are very happy for the community to actually do all the legwork with landowners and put together some proposals. But it's very challenging for us lay parish councillors to do that. So I was really hoping for a bit more assurance that the support is going to be there in accessing this fund, which seems to be the only pot that's available at the moment.
Yeah, it'll be, whether it's NFM funding or grant and aid funding, etc., from the Environment Agency. as you say, all areas, all communities have to apply for that, and of course they'll go through a variety of filters as to what the higher priority areas are. So, you know, I can't sit here and promise anything from any one direction for any one community. What I do know is that obviously, as a result of the Storm Babet funding, that, you know, that's being taken very seriously and being taken forward. Whether that helps you, Sally, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we've received positive noises from the county council officer in that she has said that, you know, they would in principle welcome Charlesfield putting a proposal forward. So that's good news. But as I say, it's quite a big challenge for the parish council to pull all that together.
Yeah, sure. No, I totally recognise that, and I'd be interested in, you know, what assistance and support, whether it's us or the local authorities, could give the parish council in actually responding to that, really. I mean, sorry, I can't be more help there, Sally, really, but you know, my general knowledge of this area, having looked at the investigations and obviously being fully aware of the significance of the flooding there, is that all the powers that be want to take this forward and try and find a solution as best as possible. As I understand it, that particular geographical area, you know, it's a combination of a runoff from land drainage, as well as obviously in river flooding. So it's really quite a complicated scenario, as I understand.
Yes, and I mean, there are also factors such as, you know, highways maintenance and gullies not being cleared, I'm afraid, that sort of aspect as well. So it's complex, but you know, it did involve about 23 people having to leave their homes for about a year. I mean, a lot worse in Framlingham, I know, but you know, it was massive for the community, and people are very nervous, although I appreciate it's been a really dry spring, but you know, it is causing a lot of anxiety.
Yeah, I totally understand that, Sally. Well, you know, feel free to keep me posted on it, and I'll be interested in hearing actually from you how it progresses, and of course, if you have got frustrations, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was going to jump in with talking about the flood, but it sounds like you're already in contact with the right person who deals with the Storm Babet grants, but otherwise.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Yeah. And Charles, I think you put something in your Q&A, but you've got your hand up now, so we'll do it that way.
Yes, so I was in a meeting with your technical director about a year and a half ago, and there was concern about communities needing to move inland in Yorkshire, and there was also an issue in Norfolk about the intensity of rainfall on cliffs there. Have you got funding to move communities to new locations?
Well, it's a very good question, Charles, and I've done a couple of meetings recently with you know, coastal officers, if you like, who are working, as you say, on the issues in Yorkshire and in East Anglia. The modelling they're looking at how do those schemes, how are they financed in the future? How are they addressed? Because they are, as you say, they're very complicated. It involves people's livelihoods and their place of living. It involves the issue of compensation and people obviously, I think, actually having to physically move to a different location. It gets very complicated, the financial mechanisms that are in place. It's not solved, I don't think, it'd be fair to say, Charles. It's not solved at the moment, and those mechanisms are still under development.
So at a local level, I've been involved with meetings with the Oldham Orr Community Partnership, and David Kemp from the Environment Agency is often present. I've noticed a change in tone in the last year or so from him, particularly over permissive footpaths. So, for example, the Natural England looked at the footpath round the River Deben, and it's been approved now by the minister, and Council. Now, my recollection is, I think you used to work for Suffolk County Council about 17 years ago with the Greenest County, is that right?
That's right, yes.
So you would have some knowledge of how Suffolk County Council works with its footpaths, but David is using this term permissive footpaths as though perhaps the Environment Agency won't maintain them. So this is the footpath round the Deben would go potentially to Shosham Sluice from Woodbridge and then go inland more or less straight to Hoseley. So the river wall approaching Ramsholt, I suppose just north of Ramsholt, wouldn't be maintained. I mean, do you get an impression that there's a lack of funding in the Environment Agency to maintain permissive footpaths?
Well, I think it'd be fair to say, Charles, you can imagine there's a priority decision-making process for what is spent on what areas of coastal erosion. And as you can probably imagine, obviously, a lot of it is in relation to economic worth. So an area that's obviously heavily inhabited with housing or economic activity, ports, etc., they obviously, are the greatest priority. And obviously, when you get areas that are less inhabited or it's open farmland, access, whatever else, etc., it does come out as a lower priority from the point of view of allocation of resources. So that's the reality of it. I'm afraid to say how the Deben and the river path there stacks up, I don't know, but it'll be subject to those sort of decisions.
Sure, but I tend to get the impression that funding is being switched to a new Thames barrier that will take about 30 years from start to finish. And I would have thought with a project like that, central government would give you some money to do it. I get the impression central government is cutting back money rather than giving you more.
Thanks, Charles. You're breaking up a bit, so I didn't quite catch all of that. But yeah, there are significant developments.
I'm suggesting that
shall I come back, Charles?
Yes, it was about. I'll turn this off. So central government seems to be wanting you to take on new projects like New Thames Barrier that'll take 30 years from start to finish, and funds are going that way. And I would have thought central government would give you another load of money to fund something like that. But if anything, central government seems to be restricting your funding. Is that correct?
Well, you would certainly say at the moment that the allocation of I'm getting a bit of feedback now.
Yeah, I think maybe we Charles, are you okay to turn your mic off? I think it's all echoing. Please,
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
So government funding will be allocated according to obviously what they see as national priority. So as you would imagine, Thames Crossing, Thames Barrier, etc., is going to be a huge national priority, and everything else will fall in behind that. The overall situation at the moment is that it would be fair to say that public spending is stretched, and therefore every element of what government funds, whether that's through DEFRA, Environment Agency, or any other angle, is subject to a lot of scrutiny at the moment. So yeah, there isn't a lot more resource to throw around, and therefore the decision-making processes that we have to go through to identify the priorities where we spend are quite stringent, and that of course doesn't always suit everybody.
Great, thank you, Iain.
Okay.
Was everyone able to see the email address? I think someone asked. I've popped it in the Q&A, but that was asked to be shared.
No, can't see it at the minute.
No, okay, we'll send it round afterwards. That's fine with the recording. Does anyone have any other questions?
Any other questions? Well, feel free, if you want to come back to when you got the email address, if you want to come back and raise anything with me individually, that's fine with me. And The minimum I can do is raise it with the right people, then the right colleagues within the Environment Agency to try and get you an answer, even if I can't provide the answer directly myself.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hang on a minute, and I'll. Where are we? Yes. Yeah, perhaps I could ask you about road runoff. We discovered we have a major problem in Ixworth in that the high street is quite steep, and at the bottom of the high street is the river, and as a result of that, there's no separation pit, and the gutter feeds straight into the river. We were trying to clear the silt away to reveal the gravel bed that lies beneath, and we came across this huge pile of black sludge that was the result, presumably, of many years of deposition from the high street. And we made some inquiries as to what to do about this. And when we were told if we removed it, we should have to pay for the toxic material to be taken away and disposed of. At which point we thought we couldn't afford that. So we left it to be dispersed. But nobody seems to want to take responsibility for it. Now, ultimately, it's Highways' responsibility. So we discovered, but Highways being Highways in Suffolk, they weren't particularly interested in doing anything about it. Now, there's a lot of work going on elsewhere to dispose, to capture and then dispose of a road runoff, and it's become an increasing problem and will become even greater in some ways with electric cars because of the additional tyre wear. But is there anything that the Environment Agency is doing to pursue this?
Well, thanks, Roger. So yeah, so road runoff is a difficult one. As you said, it involves regulation by a number of different organisations, you know, whoever the local authority is or the Highways Agency, from the point of view of the road itself. The Environment Agency is then interested in the runoff that then occurs into watercourses, etc. And roads are a major source of that pollution. We're looking at that from the point of view of nutrient neutrality. So it can be runoff from roads, it could be runoff from pig farms, it could be runoff from any of those sort of high nitrate, phosphate and chemical based activities. You're quite right. You know, we as an organisation are stretched to deal with all those instances because obviously it occurs in many different locations. But again, if there's a particular issue that you think hasn't been looked at adequately by the authorities that are involved in that, we'd be interested to hear about that. You can add that to your list of things to send in to me, and I can raise it with the right technical team as to whether they've looked at it or are aware of it.
Fine, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Great. If that's everyone's questions, then we'll call it a day there. And I'll send out Iain's email address to everyone who's been here today, so you can get those emails out to him. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and thanks Iain for the presentation.
I promise not to shut down the email address tomorrow, so now you can all send it through to me. And I actually quite enjoy, you know, hearing from folk and hearing about the first-hand experiences you've got, because obviously that keeps me well and truly in the loop of what communities are facing and the difficulties you have. So it is very welcome.
Right. Oh, Laura, have you got a question?
Yes. Sorry. I'm just trying to see if I can find the website that would direct me to the interlinking services that you work with.
Well, the Environment Agency or DEFRA website overall is what you want to look at. We can obviously provide you with the right links for that, and that is multifaceted. You know, there's obviously lots of information on there. How I wouldn't like to say how useful it is. I'd be interested to know once you're on it and how useful you find it. That's partly why I didn't just present that kind of web-based type of presentation this afternoon, because I think it comes across as a bit impersonal, a bit glossy, and hopefully what I've been able to talk about this afternoon is more of a personal story about what someone at the agency does. But we can certainly, Jess and I can just check that out probably afterwards and make sure you get the right link.
Yeah, we can send that out with the email address as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Great.
Thanks, Laura.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. Our next
Thank you for organising it.
That's right. Our next webinar in the Community Network series is on the 17th of June with UK Power Networks, and we'll be circulating the registration link for that in the coming weeks. So hopefully see everyone there.